It's not only you that feels lonely, but other people can feel that way. It's just that sometimes they don't actually show it. And it's sad, but at the same time, it's good. And the reason why being lonely can be sad is because you may forget how to socialize with people. And when you forget of how to socialize with people, you realize that it's harder for you to be around people because you're so used to being by yourself. And that's really the lonely chapter as well, because you need to be comfortable being by yourself, but then you need to get out of your comfort zone as well, because when you're alone, you may have problems that you always have, but then you have to make sure that you do everything you can to solve it. The more that you try to ignore problems, the more that problems start to build up. And you don't want problems to build up because, for example, when you do good habits, it starts to build up over time, it improves your discipline. But when you're lonely and you start to ignore your problems, you don't really tell people about it. And because you're starting to ignore problems, you realize that the problems, they never seem to go away. Some people may say that they're in the same situation all the time, but when it comes to really being in the same situation, it's because you need to realize that when people say that problems repeat themselves until you're willing to solve it, it's because you're always going to have that problem until you're able to solve it. And when you start to ignore problems, it's something that's in the long term because it negatively impacts you. You may be watching this and you may think you have no problems. And you may be watching this that because you have so many friends, that you're not lonely at all. Everyone does have a time where they feel lonely or uncomfortable. And that's why whenever you feel lonely or you feel uncomfortable, it's just about addressing your problems. Because you may be around other people and then they make you feel alone as well. So you don't want it to be that you're always supporting people, but then they don't support you back. And you need to realize as well that when you're lonely, you start to get to know yourself more. You know your likes, you know your dislikes, you know what you're not going to tolerate, and you know how you can elevate as well. You may think being lonely is a bad thing, but sometimes it's really down to the people that you surround yourself with. Because if you can't have conversations of how you want to grow, and you can't have conversations with people because you feel like they're going to judge you, sometimes it's not really on you, but it's on them. And sometimes people do bad things to you because they think they get away with it. And maybe they do in the moment, but that's something that you don't need to worry about. Because for example, let's say you're alone because you don't want to be around just anyone. You need to realize by being alone, you're really helping yourself out. Because when you're helping yourself out, you realize that all the time that you're putting into yourself, all the good habits you're trying to build, and then also you're trying to trust yourself as well. When you start to trust yourself, you're more likely to put yourself in new situations. And that's why you have to realize as well that it's a lonely chapter. It's not something that will last forever. And for example, you start a book, but then you don't actually finish it. And that's another thing that I'm going to say as well. And I hope I'm really clear with this point. Like for example, so many people start things, but how many people actually see it through? And it's not that you have to become an expert at what you're doing, but then you have to make sure that you try new things as well to see if it works for you. Because for example, you may have hobbies that you want to try, but you never really did it because you feel like that you're going to try these new things, but then you don't have someone else to do it with. And that's the thing, because you're always going to meet so many different people. But if you're afraid of trying something new because you're always around the same people, you're never really going to grow. That is part of the lonely chapter because it will test your patience, it will test your strength. And sometimes as well, people will treat you in a bad way. And sometimes your situation will not go away until you do something about it. And you need to realize as well that if you're afraid of trying something new because you're not around people as well, and sometimes as well you're afraid of trying something new because you feel like people judge you, you start to doubt yourself, you start to think negatively, and because you're in silence, the thoughts are very loud, like the negative thoughts are so loud, and you don't know who to turn to, you don't know what to do. And that's why as well, if you're ever alone or you feel like you're alone, because everyone will feel alone at some point, you need something that you can work towards. And in my other video, I may talk about being ambitious and why you need something to work towards. But at the moment, while I have your attention, just have something that you're working towards. When you are alone, you have so much free time to really try things and fail. And also as well, when you're alone, you have the opportunity to try things. Like, don't take that time for granted and don't waste your time. Because when you waste your time, you start to be scrolling, you start to look at what other people are doing because you're so lonely. If you take being lonely as a bad thing, you're never really going to be happy with yourself. You know, when you make someone else your entire life, other people can see that, and then they don't want to be around you. Because have you noticed, you want all the cool people, you want the interesting people to be around you, but if you don't have anything interesting going on in your life, it's really hard for people to want to talk to you or be around you. I'm not being harsh, but I'm being honest, because you need to be able to have an interesting life by yourself, because other people, they should add to your life, but they shouldn't be your entire life. And sometimes you need to hear the truth from me, or you need to hear the truth from your friends as well. You do the things that you're good at, but you also try new things, the things that you're not so good at. And that's why meeting new people is such a great opportunity for you to grow. Because when you meet new people, you learn from other people, but you don't want other people to do the work for you. And you need to realize as well that if you're not improving in your lonely chapter, you're going to stay where you are completely. And that's the thing, being lonely is so uncomfortable, because you hear your thoughts, you're always looking at yourself, you're always saying these things to yourself. You don't want it to be that you're getting to your breaking point and you're like, this is enough, that I can't take it. Because if you get to that point where you give up on yourself, other people can't really help you, because you need to be the one to get yourself out of it. I wanted to say this, when it comes to your lonely chapter, you need to improve on yourself. And it's going back to what I said about good habits. Because if you can't improve your looks, you can't improve like your lifestyle. And when I mean your lifestyle, it just means the people that you're around, to have an active lifestyle where you're exercising, you're moving around. You don't want it to be that you're just like lazy and you're just lying around. Because when you're lying around, you realize that your environment is messy. And when your environment is messy, you start to be messy as well. You need to realize that sometimes it's the way that you think about things that changes your life. I know that suffering can be like the wrong choice of words, but I'm just going to say this. If you're not physically tired of the things that you're trying to do, or you're not doubting yourself, then are you really trying to get to where you want to be? My main point is just to try different things. Like sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And in your lonely chapter, you realize that you have to do this for yourself. You have to do this for yourself. You have to want this for yourself. And you have to want to improve yourself as well. Because when I mean improve yourself, it just means improve the way you look, improve the way you think about things, and improve your habits, because habits is really a big one. You need to realize the small things that you do every single day, it will build up over time. So for example, if you do things that are like very grand, you do things that are like very big, like sometimes big changes, it's good in the moment, but then because you're like not able to maintain it, that's why the big changes, they don't really last long. So that's why you have to focus on what you can do right now. Focus on really the small changes that you can do right now. And then over time, it's more likely to build. Because the person back then, you realize that all the things that you were doing back then, maybe you was like lazy, maybe you wasn't like looking after yourself as much. And the thing is, sometimes when you're not looking after yourself, you're really focused on what other people want. And when I'm saying this, it's because, for example, you need to really put yourself first. And that's what I'm going to say when you are alone, because you're always by yourself. The thing is, other people may be with you, but they don't know what you've actually been through. If you had the opportunity to go back and change things, you probably wouldn't. And that's really the same for most people. Because the things that you did, all the mistakes, all the things that went well, you realize it got you to where you are today. So that's all I got to say, and I'll see you in another video.